The most perilous individuals in your life don't necessarily confront you head-on. Rather, they cloak themselves in the guise of friendship. These deceivers don't brandish signs of their treachery. Instead, they don masks that most fail to see through, driven by a desire to believe in the goodness of others. What if the greatest threats to your peace aren't those who openly challenge you, but those who wear a friendly facade? This is where the wisdom of Machiavelli comes into play. He recognized that those who seek to mislead will always find willing participants in their deception. In a reality where betrayal lurks beneath friendly smiles, honing your skills in detecting lies transforms from a mere advantage into an essential survival tactic. Machiavelli didn't rely on mere intuition. He meticulously observed, analyzed, and identified patterns that liars inadvertently reveal. These are not mere guesses. They are strategic psychological tools designed to unveil hidden truths before they cost you your power, time, or tranquility. Let's delve into the first 3 of Machiavelli's 7 tactics for identifying deception at a glance. The first tactic centers on recognizing unnecessary details, a method I like to call the smokescreen strategy. Don't be a silent observer. Your like takes a second, but it drives our research for weeks. If you find these deep investigative dives captivating, subscribe right now. When someone fabricates a story, they often feel compelled to overcompensate by inundating you with extraneous information, overly detailed accounts, irrelevant facts, and specifics that sound rehearsed. The truth stands bare, devoid of embellishment, while lies thrive on decoration. Machiavelli understood this well. When questioning someone about their whereabouts, a truthful individual might simply say, "I was at home watching a movie." In contrast, a liar may respond with, "Oh, I was at home around 9:30 or 9:45. Imagine a world where betrayal hides in plain sight, disguised as friendship. "I made pasta, watched this show on streaming, and then my phone died. You can ask Jake." This response is telling. It's not merely an answer, but a constructed defense. Pay attention to long-winded responses to straightforward inquiries, rapid-fire irrelevant details, and defensive assertions made before you even express doubt. Here's a Machiavellian move. Pose a neutral question, and then remain silent. Allow their guilt to fill that silence with unnecessary justifications. The second tactic involves observing micro-expressions of disgust or incongruence. The face is a powerful betrayer of one's true feelings. Even the most skilled deceivers cannot control every muscle, and Machiavelli understood that the body often communicates more than words ever could. Look for inconsistency. When someone claims, "I'm thrilled for you," yet their smile falters, or they say, "Of course I trust you," but their gaze drops midway through. These fleeting expressions, known as micro-expressions, are crucial indicators. Liars may rehearse their words, but often neglect to practice the expressions that accompany them. What should you watch for? A smile that ends abruptly or fails to reach the eyes, a tone that feels either overly flat or excessively enthusiastic for the context, or sudden stillness followed by exaggerated emotions when pressed with questions. Here's a Machiavellian tactic. Interject a pointed question during a conversation and fix your gaze on their eyes. Don't blink, don't smile. Observe their face before they respond. The third tactic highlights the significance of repetition, which signals rehearsal. Have you ever wondered how to unveil the truth behind a charming smile? A liar's greatest fear is inconsistency, prompting them to memorize their narrative meticulously, word for word, emotion for emotion. Machiavelli would perceive this as a weakness masquerading as preparation. To catch them out, ask the same question in various forms. Liars tend to regurgitate the same phrasing, as if reciting lines from a script. For instance, you might ask, "What happened at the party?" and receive the response, "I left early because it was getting strange." Later, if you ask, "Why did you leave again?" they might respond, "Exactly. I left early because it was getting strange." This isn't memory, it's rehearsal, indicating they've been preparing to defend their falsehood, not to convey the truth. What to look for? Robotic, rehearsed language, a consistently repeated emotional tone even when the context doesn't warrant it, and an inability to answer follow-up questions that deviate from their script. Here's a Machiavellian maneuver. Change the timeline by asking about the same event, but in reverse order. Watch how their story holds up when the structure is challenged. Understanding why this matters is crucial. Lies rarely exist for their own sake. Machiavelli didn't concern himself with trivial falsehoods. He was more interested in the underlying motivations and what they revealed about long-term intentions. What if the art of deception is a performance, and you hold the script to expose it? Deceivers don't merely conceal actions, they obscure agendas. A man who lies about his whereabouts may be gauging how easily you place your trust. A woman who distorts her words might be manipulating your memory against itself. A friend who speaks falsely about another could be shaping your perceptions. Thus, exposure isn't merely about catching someone in the act. It's about recognizing the patterns long before they cost you your influence. Machiavelli asserted that leaders must anticipate deceit and cultivate the discipline to recognize it early. Once you identify the patterns, detect the masks, and observe the twitches behind the smiles, you no longer fear liars. You learn to wield them. Machiavelli understood that those who beam the brightest smiles often conceal the sharpest blades. He devised a system, a psychological arsenal designed to penetrate charm, promises, and eloquent words. Once you master the art of exposing liars, confrontation becomes unnecessary. You simply hold the truth and let them entrap themselves with their own words. Let's proceed to uncover the final 4 of Machiavelli's 7 tactics for identifying deception, each one sharper than the last. The 4th tactic is to ensnare them in a verbal maze, confuse the liar while clarifying the truth. Honest individuals think on their feet, whereas liars are bound to their scripts. Let's delve deeper into Machiavelli's tactics for unveiling deception as we explore the 5th tactic, which involves testing loyalty through your own deception. This method acts as a double-edged sword. If you suspect someone is untrustworthy, introduce a subtle falsehood into the conversation and observe how it unfolds. For instance, if there's doubt regarding a friend's integrity, you might share a minor fabrication about someone else or even yourself. The true test lies in how this misinformation circulates. If it returns to you through others or if your friend probes about it with suspicious curiosity, you've caught a glimpse of their true nature. Machiavelli understood the necessity of mastering both the lion and the fox. This tactic embodies the cunning of the fox. Watch for the signs. If your fabricated information starts popping up in conversations elsewhere, or if your friend references your lie later as if it grants them access to deeper insights, you've potentially revealed a traitor in your midst. But what happened next? As we transition to the 6th tactic, consider the power of controlled vulnerability. This approach is akin to psychological jujitsu. Individuals are instinctively inclined to reciprocate when faced with openness. However, liars are adept at manipulating this trait to their advantage. If you sense someone is concealing the truth, share a minor, controlled confession that encourages them to lower their defenses. For instance, you might say, "I've lied to escape tricky situations before, and I felt terrible about it." If they are honest, you'll likely receive a sympathetic response. Conversely, if they are hiding something, your admission may prompt them to reveal their own deceptions, believing they've found a safe space to confess. What should you be on the lookout for? Pay attention to any abrupt changes in their tone following your revelation, or if they echo your confession with their own. A sense of relief may wash over them, indicating they've unwittingly stepped into a trap. This tactic should be employed judiciously. Never lay bare your true weaknesses. Instead, construct a fictional flaw that seems genuine and scrutinize their reaction carefully. Now, let's explore the seventh tactic, which involves observing their body language during moments of stillness. This is where the charm can falter. Many liars are skilled orators, adept at using their voices and expressions to weave convincing narratives. Yet, when the performance pauses and the spotlight dims, their true selves often slip through the cracks. Which of the arguments presented seemed the most unbelievable, yet surprisingly convincing? Share your thoughts. Let's discuss this below. Machiavelli would keenly observe individuals after a conversation or a compliment, as those moments frequently reveal the most telling signs. Look for the reset, the sigh that escapes, the fleeting drop in expression. These subtle transitions can expose the truth, for no one can maintain a facade indefinitely. What should you be vigilant for? A forced smile that vanishes as soon as you divert your gaze, tension in their posture when praise is offered, or even anxious movements when the focus shifts away from them. Employ a Machiavellian strategy. Feign distraction while keeping a watchful eye from your peripheral vision. Liars often abandon their act when they believe they're no longer being observed. Now that you've pinpointed the liar, what's the next step? You don't confront them outright. Instead, you reposition yourself strategically. Machiavelli never advocated for open conflict with every deceiver. Rather, he advised using your newfound knowledge to your advantage. If someone deceives you in business, maintain a close watch but withhold real power from them. In matters of the heart, decipher their motives and mirror them until they reveal their true colors. What if the deception occurs in friendship? Simply withdraw your trust and let them languish in silence. This approach emphasizes that exposure doesn't equate to drama. It translates to leverage. You're no longer in a state of uncertainty or wishful thinking. You see the liar for who they are, while they remain oblivious to your insight. This is the Machiavellian edge. Once you recognize a liar, many assume that confrontation is the logical next step. However, this is a novice's reaction. Machiavelli's intent was not to shame deceivers, but to exert control over them. A liar who believes they've deceived you becomes a far more valuable asset than one who realizes they've been caught. The liar transforms into your puppet, with their secrets becoming your tools of influence. Their false bravado morphs into your weapon as you understand its fragility. Here's how to instill fear in liars without raising your voice. First, allow them to continue speaking while you quietly seize control. Once you've identified the liar, your goal shifts from silencing them to listening intently for opportunities to gain leverage. Machiavelli wisely noted, "Never interrupt your enemy while they are making a mistake." And liars, they invariably reveal their flaws by talking too much. But what will happen when you implement these strategies? What secrets will you uncover next? The intrigue deepens, and the stakes rise. But what happened next would change everything. By exploiting these tactics, you can truly unravel the web of deceit woven around you. Begin by posing subtle inquiries while maintaining an air of indifference. The more relaxed and unthreatened they feel, the more careless their responses will become. Keep your demeanor neutral. Allow them to believe they are in command of the conversation. As you gather information, meticulously document any discrepancies that arise. You're not just observing, you're constructing a solid case against them. This is a classic Machiavellian maneuver. Avoid engaging in debates or attempting to correct them. Instead, utilize their own words against them. Picture it. One day, you'll pull the rope tight. Now, let's move to the second step. Test their memory through repetition. A liar's recollection often betrays them, as they tend to remember the fabrication rather than the essence of truth. As a result, they may recite the same falsehood or alter details without even realizing it. Time can serve as a powerful pressure point. Revisit the same question days or even weeks later. Bring it up casually, as if it had slipped your mind, and observe their reaction. For instance, you might say, "You mentioned you left at 10:30, right?" To which they might reply, "Yeah, maybe it was 10:45. That subtle shift, that nervous recalibration, is pure gold. Every lie is a burden, and eventually they will struggle to bear the weight of all their deceptions. This is another Machiavellian tactic. Use memory as a trap. Introduce minor inaccuracies and watch them scramble to uphold their narrative. Now, let's discuss the third step. Mirror their behavior to instill doubt within them. Here's a psychological tactic that Machiavelli would surely endorse. Make the liar feel as if they're being scrutinized without uttering a word. You accomplish this by subtly mirroring their deceitful mannerisms. If they lie nonchalantly, respond in kind. If they embellish tales, amplify your own. If they shower you with excessive flattery, return the compliment with equal insincerity. Why does this work? Because deceivers can recognize their own tactics, and being mirrored unnerves them. Suddenly, they begin to question themselves. Are they being outsmarted? Do you possess knowledge they aren't aware of? This breeds paranoia, which erodes their confidence. Once their confidence wanes, their falsehoods are bound to crumble. This Machiavellian tactic involves reflecting their deceit, not as an attack, but as a way to make them squirm in their own dishonesty. Now, let's proceed to the fourth step. Quietly establish your boundaries. No grand announcements are necessary. Most individuals, upon discovering a liar, either confront them in anger or withdraw in silence. Both responses may feel satisfying emotionally, but strategically, they are foolish. Confrontation reveals your hand, while ghosting them removes your influence before you've gleaned all the information you need. Machiavelli would advocate for a different approach. Allow them to remain in the castle, but ensure they never reach the throne again. How do you achieve this? By withholding genuine information from them. Feed them misleading leads if required. Gradually remove them from influential circles without abruptness. Maintain a polite facade, but make it clear that they no longer hold significance in your world. This is how you inflict punishment without causing a scene. This is how to wound without being detected. This is how you convey to a liar that they've been demoted without their knowledge. This is another Machiavellian tactic. Never declare that you've caught the liar. Let them dwell in uncertainty, for that is the true punishment. Now, let's move to step 5. Wield your knowledge only when absolutely necessary. Once you've confirmed the deceit, the real strength lies in your timing. You don't need to unleash everything at once, but keep it ready, like a dagger concealed behind your back. When should you reveal what you know? When they attempt to regain power and need reminding of their place. When others inquire about them, and you wish to plant seeds of doubt. When they challenge you publicly, and you seek to end the game decisively. Remember, however, to expose only enough to rattle them. Then, fall silent. This will leave them wondering just how much insight you truly possess. What else are you keeping under wraps? That fear and uncertainty hold more weight than the truth itself. This Machiavellian tactic involves using their lies as a leash, tightening it gradually while remaining hidden. Now, we arrive at step 6. Utilize the liar to test others. Let them carry the infection of deceit. This is a strategy that few consider. A known liar can be a valuable asset. By keeping them at a safe distance, you can observe who believes them, who defends them, and who parrots their words. The liar transforms into your canary, revealing who among your circle is susceptible to their poison. Permit them to spread their tales and test loyalties. While they do, you'll analyze the reactions of those around you. You'll identify who spreads rumors without verifying facts, who pretends not to notice, and who secretly aligns with the falsehood. In this manner, the liar serves as your filter, exposing others who may be corruptible and those worth retaining. This is another Machiavellian tactic. You don't always need to eliminate liars. Sometimes they serve as bait, revealing your enemies through their reactions to falsehoods. By now, you've not only identified the liar but also outmaneuvered them. You haven't shouted accusations or issued warnings. Instead, you've shifted the entire balance of power. They think they're deceiving you while you study their every move. They believe they're close to the truth, but you've locked the doors and left a window open just wide enough to observe their discomfort. That's true control. That's silent retribution. That's the Machiavellian approach. Machiavelli recognized the cunning of liars, but never overestimated their abilities. To him, they were not villains, but rather instruments. Every falsehood serves as a signal. Every act of deception reveals a tell. Each manipulator discloses their true nature if you know what to look for. And now, you possess that knowledge. But to complete your transformation from prey to strategist, you must grasp one final aspect: understanding the type of liar you're dealing with. Not all deceivers lie for the same reasons, and not all pose equal threats. What kind of liar is lurking in your midst? What kind of deceiver could be hiding among your acquaintances? Let's delve into the 3 categories of liars that Machiavelli feared the most, and explore how to dismantle their facades without ever getting your hands dirty. First on the list is the insecure pretender. For them, deception is intertwined with their very identity. These individuals often lose sight of their own fabrications, inflating their pasts, embellishing their influence, and casually dropping names that carry weight. They hint at connections to power they don't genuinely possess, not with the intent to harm, but to shield themselves and appear larger, smarter, and more significant than they truly are. Here lies their danger. They are so entrenched in their own illusions that their confidence is infectious, leading others to believe them as well. Machiavelli wisely noted that one who deceives will always find those willing to be deceived. So, how do you dismantle the insecure pretender? Reflect their lies back at them, but with a twist of exaggeration. If they boast about knowing a famous person, suggest the idea of inviting that individual to an event. Observe the panic that ensues. Allow them to speak in the presence of more knowledgeable individuals. The truth will often emerge without your intervention. Pose specific questions they cannot fabricate answers to, and watch them either retreat or lash out. They typically crumble when confronted with reality, having built castles in the air that simply need a window opened. Now, let's consider the second type, the strategic manipulator. Every lie they weave serves a calculated purpose. This archetype is perhaps the most perilous, as they are fully aware of their actions and lie with surgical precision. They craft their narratives, calibrate their charm, and use deception to climb social ladders, evade accountability, or incite discord among others. Unlike the insecure pretender, they are not driven by insecurity but by cold calculation. To dismantle the strategic manipulator, you must separate them from their audience. These individuals thrive on social control, so pulling them aside for a one-on-one interaction can weaken their mask. Pay attention to their allies, as manipulators often rely on those who amplify their words or defend them unconditionally. Disrupt their flow by asking direct and pointed questions when they least expect it. They often falter under chaos, so seek evidence for their claims. When you ask them for specifics, like messages or dates, you'll find they rarely have the documentation because their stories are fabricated. Your role is to introduce structure and clarity, countering their ambiguity with facts. Finally, we arrive at the emotional manipulator. For them, deception serves as a protective shield. This type is often the most challenging to identify and expose, as they lie through emotional appeals rather than logical reasoning. They may cry to evade responsibility or manipulate your feelings to back off. They twist narratives to portray themselves as victims, even when they are the ones deceiving. Machiavelli advised against playing their game. To dismantle the emotional manipulator, avoid challenging them publicly, as they wield attention as a weapon. Keep confrontations private and maintain a calm demeanor. If they resort to tears, remain composed. If they raise their voice, lower yours. When they attempt to guilt-trip you, simply change the subject. Stick to precise, closed questions to prevent them from spinning tales. Repeating their statements verbatim can highlight the absurdity or contradictions in their claims, without your interpretation muddying the waters. These manipulators can drain your energy if you allow yourself to be drawn into their emotional vortex. The final Machiavellian principle to remember is to never take the truth at face value until it has been tested. Machiavelli himself did not subscribe to the idea of truth as a given. Rather, he believed in verification through tension. While everyone may perceive what you present, few truly understand who you are beneath the surface. In essence, don't trust smiles, apologies, or narratives that seem too perfectly crafted. Trust only what can withstand scrutiny. The beauty of this approach is that you don't need to be paranoid. You simply need to be methodical. Every liar will reveal themselves when under pressure, when asked the same question multiple times, when they think you're not observing, or when they don't receive the reaction they desire. Your advantage lies not in shouting accusations, but in recognizing, with a knowing smile, the true nature of their character. The ultimate lesson here is that the crown belongs to the one who possesses knowledge. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room, nor do you need to instill fear or prove your intelligence. All you need is clarity of vision. Once you learn to recognize liars, you begin to navigate social dynamics like a shadow ruler. Your decisions become precise, your words fewer, and your observations sharper. You move quietly, yet your presence is unmistakably 10 steps ahead. This is how power operates in the real world, not through brute force, but through keen foresight. When you master the 7 Machiavellian identification tactics, you not only survive deception, you thrive in its wake. While others may plead for honesty, you will already possess the truth, marking the end of the liar's power and the dawn of your own. Don't be a silent observer. Your light takes a second, but it drives our research for weeks. If you find these deep investigative dives captivating, subscribe right now. And in the next video, we'll discover why smart people pretend to be foolish. Machiavelli's deception tactic.